Welcome to Extra Inning Softball Voices from the Field. I'm Jessi Warren.
And I'm Katie Lively, and we are thrilled to have you with us today.
So grab your gloves,
lace up your cleats,
and settle in as we explore the voices from the field,
where every inning counts and every player has a story. Hello, everyone. This is Voices from the Field podcast with your hosts, Katie Lively and Jessi Warren. And today we're back with another episode. Our first big topic is going to be revolved around playing multiple sports in high school. I know that that's a controversial topic. I know that a lot of people have strong opinions about it. So we just want to get into it, talk about the pros and cons, and just kind of see where the conversation goes. So, Jessi, what do you have to say about playing multiple sports in high school? What do you think about it? Do you think it's a good idea, especially when they start coming to like recruiting age? Do you have like a big opinion about it?
Yeah, I was a multi-sport athlete growing up. I played tennis, soccer, I ran track, I threw shot put, I played basketball, volleyball, like you name the sport, and I played it. And I think it definitely helped me. I mean, growing up, I lived in a really bad neighborhood. So, first and foremost, it helped me stay out of trouble. So, just being able to be in season, whatever sport that was, like year round, it was good for me as a child growing up to stay out of trouble and off the streets and hanging around the wrong crowd, because I look back on my childhood, and had I not played all these sports, like who would have known where I would have ended up, just thinking about it. So I'm for it. Like I think it's super important too for an athlete to just be a very versatile athlete. And you're playing different sports, you're working different muscle groups, and like I said, I was a multi-sport athlete. It helped me tremendously just be athletic. And yeah, I'm all for it. I think there's more pros than there are cons. Granted, there are some cons that come with it, but yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I love the athletic piece of it. I think that that's so true. Like I played multiple sports, played mostly volleyball and basketball. Basketball was short-lived, but it like brings a lot more athleticism, like you said. But I think even the mental part of it too, of being able to play a sport that maybe you aren't as passionate about, you're not, super, super serious about it, but it almost like makes you kind of like cut up and have fun and like fall in love with a sport that doesn't have as much pressure tied to it. Not that softball is amazing. And obviously, if you want to go play in college there, like go play college softball, obviously you're super passionate about it. But I almost think it's like a good mental break. I don't know. I mean, obviously we're competitive. You want to win. You don't just want to go out there and just do bad or not practice it and not give your full effort into it. But I don't know. I just think it brings a lot of mental like benefits because it's just something that you do for fun. And I know I sound crazy saying that because obviously you do softball for fun as well, but it is different. I'm sure there's a lot of athletes out there that would agree. Like it's different playing a sport that like you're not going to go play in college, but you're just doing it for fun and being around your friends. I think it's just a really good way to just kind of like let loose and just have fun. And like you said, be athletic and just figure it out. I know for me playing volleyball, I played and then I stopped my sophomore year to get recruited because back then sophomore year was when you got recruited. And I went back and played my senior year. And I think it really taught me a lot about being coachable because I hadn't played it in a while. And so I really had to rely on my teammates and my coaches to teach me how to play the game again. And I think that's really humbling in some regard. I think it's like really teaches you how to be coachable and patient with yourself and kind of learn to do something different. Especially when you're like a little bit older. I think it's like harder to do that the older you get. Like you kind of have your pride gets in the way a little bit. So like I know for me, I really had to step back and be like, I got to really rely on people to teach me how to play volleyball again because I don't remember. So I think that's like the biggest thing. In recruiting, I don't know how you feel about it with recruiting now. I almost think it gives you more freedom in a way to play like your freshman and sophomore year at least. I don't know. What do you feel about recruiting? What do you think about that?
I mean, you talk about the coach piece, like the coachable approach. Like, I think if it wasn't for these other sports that I played, like, I don't think I would have been as coachable in the game of softball. Like, I
Right.
was I mean, God blessed me with a gift, like, I was so talented, I am still so talented at softball, but if it wasn't for not being that good at basketball or soccer or throwing shot put and not being able to open my mind to receive feedback on how to change and be better at what I was doing in these other sports, I don't think I would have been able to be open-minded in the game of softball and do the same because if I'm stuck in this one sport and I think I'm so good at it, which I know I'm so good at it, it's really hard for me to want to, get that feedback from other people if, and especially as a teenager, like you think
Right.
you know everything. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I was there. I thought I knew everything.
Too.
Obviously, I didn't. It was such a big learning curve, but I think that's another like important piece too is just being open minded to being coachable, like you said. And I do think, like you said, I think it helps with the recruiting piece. Like if coaches see that you're an athlete, like you're athletic, you're a multi sport athlete. Like I said before, like you're working different muscle groups, you're able to move differently than someone who's just constricted to one sport. I think it just opens a little bit more opportunity for you and for other coaches to see that, okay, so she plays softball, basketball, and volleyball. I know she's very coachable just due to the fact that she's a three sport athlete and it's
Right.
all three different sports and
Mhm.
you play the game three different ways and you have to learn three different types of movements for these sports throughout the sport. So I think again, another pro, like
Yeah.
it's definitely going to help you more than it's going to hinder you from being recruited.
Yeah, right, and then you bring in, like, the burnout aspect and then doing the same thing the whole year and never switching anything up, like, do you think that contributes to burnout, or do you think that burnout's just gonna happen regardless of if you're playing one sport or not?
I think like it does definitely help playing multiple sports with not being burnt out on one sport. Like in high school, I played obviously basketball during the fall and then softball in the spring, just because I was in Florida. It's different in different
I didn't know that.
states, obviously, but um, it took away, like, the year-round softball aspect for me, like because
Mhm.
if you're playing just softball, you're in softball in high school year-round. Like, you're playing in the summer, you're playing fall ball, you're playing spring ball, and it's just like a nonstop clock for you, and granted, when you get to college, it's nonstop, but it's so much different in
Yeah.
college, like, I don't know how to explain it, like, you have to live it to understand it,
Yeah.
but definitely when you're in high school and you're still figuring it out and you're figuring out what you wanna do, like, there was a point, like, my freshman year, I was like, "Do I wanna go to college for basketball? Like, I'm good, like, I know I can play it. Like, is this something I wanna do or is softball where I wanna go?" So, like, there's so many decisions too, and it gives you opportunity to just obviously grow as a kid, as a teenager, and as you're growing into an adult, making your own decisions, and granted, parents are gonna make decisions for kids sometimes, like, it's just that's what it is, like, parents have to step in and do that because as a kid, you don't really know like much. I mean, unless you think you know it all, but as most kids do. But I think gave me an opportunity to figure out who I was, what I like to do, and obviously, okay, few months later in my freshman year, I decided I did want to play softball, and it was an easy decision. Obviously, I went to Florida State campus all the time because my coach's sons played baseball there, so it was really cool to just see the campus, be around the people, and attend camps. Obviously, when I attended them, and then eventually committed in going there. But again, I think being able to play multiple sports is definitely more of a pro than it is a con. Granted, there are cons, and
Yeah.
I think it definitely helps with not burning out on one sport because you're not consistently playing the same thing. You're getting other opportunities. You're around different people. You're making new friends. You're in a different environment because each sports environment's different. We all know that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think playing multiple sports is definitely a key to helping with not burning out. Granted, there are some athletes that just get burnt out, like, they just
Yeah, it's gonna
and
happen.
I feel like burnouts come from different things, like, it could
Mhm.
be parents, like, parents are pushing their kid too hard to,
Right.
play in the sport, or it could be they find something else that they love more than, softball or basketball, whatever sport it is that they're playing, but,
Yeah.
in the long run, there are a lot of factors that go into that burnout piece. I think playing one sport is a major cause of the burnout
Yeah.
instead of playing multiple, but that's just kind of my opinion on it.
Yeah, well, and I now that you, like, mention it, I have another question for you because I have gone back and forth with this for a while because I have a younger sister that she just got done playing travel ball and now she's in college, and I think it's just once you go through travel ball and then you go through college, I feel like you have a different lens, like, looking back at travel ball and looking at just how much they play, right? Like, I played a lot, like, I know you played a lot, like, I know that there's no getting around playing a lot. You need to play a lot, you need to play in all the big tournaments and all the just play in tournaments to be able to get seen and get more experience and at bats and innings and all that fun stuff. But do you think that we almost take it too far? Like, I know the culture in travel softball, and it was like this when I was playing, but I think it's even more now. Like, you don't go on big vacations, you miss all your birthday parties for your friends, like, you don't have anything fun in the summer because you're playing all the time, which I'm so torn because I get it. You have to make sacrifices. And that's what college is going to be is sacrifices and taking your time, like taking time to play your sport and maybe not do the other things that are more social and go to birthday parties, go to vacations. But do you think it gets taken too far? Do you think there's a line? Like, what do you like? Is there an age where it's like, okay, once you hit this age, then you start, really making those sacrifices? Like, I mean, what do you think? I don't know. I'm so torn between like, I think girls should be able to go on their family vacation. Not all the time. They don't need to miss 3 tournaments, but if there's one major vacation they go on every summer, like, I don't, but then it's also, you see the other side where it's like, no, like, you got to make sacrifices. And you told your team you'd be there all summer and you need to be there all summer. So I don't know. What are your thoughts with that,
Yeah.
especially being a pro softball player? Like,
I'm
you're at the highest
I'm
level.
big on uh, to start as a kid, I was so softball driven.
Me too. Yeah.
And, like, everything I slept, I ate, I breathed softball, like,
Yes.
I
Right.
remember going outside, they used to have this little device that you would hook up to the fence, and it was, like, 2 strings and a softball was connected, and you would, like, pull your hands apart, and the softball would zip down the line, and, like, you could hit it, and my mom would always be outside doing it with me, like, I would annoy the crap out of her wanting to go outside and hit this little ball on
Right.
the string. So everything I did was just softball, so I'm more of the sacrifice type, and,
Yeah.
I learned that lesson early on. um, I think I was 12 years old and or 13. I remember I was a freshman in high school, 13 or 14 actually. And I played on this team. It was called the RBI. It was an RBI league. So it was for kids that were in the like financially unstable with their family, and it gave them opportunity to play softball and travel with this
That's
softball.
awesome.
So I played on this team and we ended up winning the tournament. And what happens when you win the tournament is you get to take your team and fly to Minneapolis. You get to go tour the Mall of America. You get to play in another, like, on TV. And at the age of 14, like, when someone tells you you're playing on TV, like, that's like the
Oh, yeah.
coolest thing in the
That's
world.
cool. Yeah.
Well, I'm, like, all for this, and I completely, like, disregarded the commitment I had with my travel ball team at the time. We had a really big tournament, and I remember going to my coach's house and being like, "I'm not coming to the tournament. I'm going on this plane with this RBI team, and I'm going to play on TV." Because at the time, I thought that was more important than, making this commitment to my team. Obviously, it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to be, so I didn't end up going to Minneapolis. I ended up staying and playing in the tournament that we had, which I don't regret it at all. But I mean, I didn't go to prom. I didn't go to homecomings. I didn't do any of these things. Like, I missed
Right.
my sleepovers were sleepovers with my teammates
Right.
day before tournament.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
like, I didn't get to do any of the fun things that some of these girls do, which I can see both sides of it. But when you get to college, you don't get to do those things
You're
either.
right.
Like, you have to make those sacrifices. And I think it's super important, especially early on. Like, you hear people always telling kids, like, hey, focus on your school, like, do your schoolwork, because when you get to college, it's going to be hard. You have 6, 7 classes. They give you all your work in the beginning of the semester. It's your job to keep up with it. So keep up with it. So it's the same thing. Like, learn how to make commitments in high school, because when you get to college, it's a little bit more easier. So
Right.
I think there could be a line. Like, I think prom's huge. Like,
Yeah.
especially now. Like, I
Right.
think that's maybe one event that would be, like, exceptional to go to. I think I remember my teammates. They went to prom. I ended up not going to prom because we had an 8 a.m. game,
Oh my
and I
god.
knew it was going to be a long night. And this obviously we are 18U senior year,
Right.
so I ended up not going. They ended up going, and I just remember we sucked that morning game, and we were not playing like a really good team. And we were one of the best teams. And granted, we didn't play in these big tournaments. Like we were in the small NSA, ISA tournaments, but we were that team of those tournaments. Like people wanted to play us, and we had the target on our back. And I just remember all the girls that went to prom were so tired that morning. Like
Mm,
they did not play to the best of their abilities, and I just remember my coach having a talk with us and basically saying, like, talking about the sacrifice piece. Like, you made a commitment to your team. Obviously, I let you guys go to prom, but you did. If you guys were going to go to prom, you should have came out knowing you were going to
right.
play like to the best of your abilities.
Yeah.
So with all that being said, I I'm like 90-10.
Yeah.
I'm like 90% learn how to make a commitment to your team because it's going to be important when you get to college, but
Right.
also 10% letting kids be kids and enjoying, prom and homecomings and family vacations. I think like spending time with your family is important, but again, situationally, like you got
Mhm.
to look at it. Like I came from a family that didn't have money, that didn't travel a lot. Mom and dad weren't married, like they were not together. So we didn't have that, conventional family dinners, family vacations, things like that. It was always just me, mom, and brother doing this, dad on his own. Like, so with that being said, we never took vacation. So that never was a problem for us in the summer. So
Right.
if you look at it situationally, I'm probably more of the 90% commit to your team, commit, like don't do this, don't do that, because I never got the opportunities to spend, the time with the family and do the vacation stuff. But I mean, I'm on the more, like I said, commit to your team and learn how to keep a commitment because it's super important. And you're going to get into the real world and jobs and real job stuff, and you're not going to be able to, take leave up to 2 weeks to go on a family vacation. Like
Right.
we got to figure it out. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's where I kind of stand.
Yeah, no, and that's like where, like I said, I just am so torn because I'm with you. Like I missed out on so many social things, and I didn't miss prom, thank goodness. But like especially during the summertime, like I can't even tell you the last time my family has been on a family vacation because my brother played travel baseball, my sister played travel softball, so we were always everywhere. So and for me, I think like my family was really like awesome about like they took the sacrifice too, and it really wasn't like oh Katie, like we're all going on vacation, are you gonna come? It was like, oh, we're just not gonna go this year on a vacation, it's fine. So yeah, I get that. I don't know, Jessi, it's so hard. I think it, like you said, it comes with situations, and it comes with figuring out like what's important and what's just you're doing it for fun. Like, and not that you can't have fun and play travel softball. That's not what I'm saying. But like you said, I mean, yeah, if it's a matter of, hey, this is, my family, my great grandmother's turning 100, and this is, yeah, maybe you need to go and do that. But if it's more of, hey, my friends are going to the lake this weekend, that's where I think it can get pretty dicey. I know that
Yeah.
I always think about it too, like, and this is, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Like I am just a big believer in like you can't have it all. And I know that sounds negative, but like you can't have 100% social life, 100% athletic life, and 100% academic life, especially in college. I'm like, and if someone out there is listening and they're like, I have it all, then I'd love to talk to them. I think it's,
Me too.
you can't have it all. And I think
Uh-uh.
it's a sacrifice, and it's really hard to tell like younger girls like that you can't have it all, but I'm sorry, like you can't go be like Miss Popular, queen of the school, while also being like so dedicated and 100% on softball while also balancing and having great grades. Like I think it's, you can't, but I think a lot of girls nowadays think
Yeah.
they want it all. And granted, everyone does, but at some point I think you have to realize like you can't have it all, and you got to figure out, and that's life. Like you got to figure out what, you're willing to sacrifice. I don't know. Like I just,
I call it the college triangle. You
yeah,
have you have your social life, you have your academic life, and you have your athletic life. And if you want to be successful, you have to pick two of the three.
yeah,
And for me, my two were academics and softball, so
right,
athletics.
right.
And I didn't really have that much of a social life outside of my teammates that I socialized with and athletes at Florida State and those events that I would attend and make friends that way. Like, yeah, I would go to my teammate's house and we would go ice skating, to the movies, like, and do other things that you do in college, but it was always with my teammates. It wasn't with, people
Yeah.
We call them NARPs, like,
Yeah.
just
Nurse, yeah.
regular people, like, it wasn't with those like, with those people, so
Yeah.
I never really did the social aspect in college, and,
Yeah.
I tried to my freshman year and found out that my, academics were declining, so then I had to, change my sight and my visions of what was important and prioritize what was important, which, like I said, was athletics because I wanted to succeed. Because, like I told you, I ate and breathed softball. Like, softball
Yeah.
was life.
Right.
Obviously, softball isn't life anymore. I understand that it's just a game, but at the time, I thought it was everything.
Yeah.
And then my academics, obviously, I knew I wanted to graduate on time in 4 years, and I wanted to get a degree and be the first person in my family to earn a degree. So, and
Yeah.
I did that, which was so cool.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, you've got to pick and choose. You can't have all three. And if you are going to have all three, you're definitely going to be failing in some of those categories that you do choose. You're
Yeah.
not going to be perfect in everything. And granted, you're not going to be perfect regardless. Like, there's only one person on this earth that's perfect, and that's God.
Correct.
But
Right.
at the same time, like, you've got to realize that you're going to have to pick and choose and prioritize what you think is important and what your family values, what you value, and what you want to surround yourself with. And for me, like I said, that was athletics and academics, and I did the dang thing. And look where
Yeah.
I am now. So
It surely did work out, let's say that. Yeah, no, it's such a hard balance, and I do think when kids are younger, like, I think 10U, even 12U a little bit, like, I do think you need to let them make those decisions for themselves. I don't know, do you think that those girls are taught that discipline from their parents? Or do you think at that age, when they're that young, you need to let them make the decision of, "Do you wanna go to the pool today or do you wanna go play softball?" Like, where
I
do you
think,
think that lies?
that's a very valid, like, question, because I remember when I was 11 years old, I won a raffle at Walmart to throw the first pitch out at a Rays game. And my mom gave me the opportunity to make the decision. Do you want to throw the first pitch of a Rays game, or do you want to go play softball with your teammates? And obviously, my decision was to go throw the first pitch out of the Rays game. Like, you're a kid, you're going to be like experiencing something you don't think you're going to experience. So, I think at that age, like, I think parents definitely need to step in and explain, not necessarily make the decision for the child, but or for the kid, but explain like why they think this decision is better, and try to put it into terms that the child's going to understand, like, okay, you're right, mom and dad, like, this is really important. And maybe down the future, like, they'll understand it. But I remember my mom changed her mind last minute, and she was like, no, you're going to your game. So I went to my game, and we ended up we were losing to a really good team at the same time that I would have been throwing out the first pitch.
Oh my gosh.
And I was such a brat. Oh my god. I remember my coach coming up to me in the middle of the game, and he was like, "Did you make the right decision?" And I was like, "No, I should be at the Rays game." And he's like, "Get your bag, get out of my dugout." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I learned so many lessons, listen, growing up as a kid, like, and the decisions and the things I said.
That's
But yeah, I
hilarious.
think I think definitely at that age, from that 10 to 12 I think at 12 that's a good age where they can start making decisions themselves. They're in eighth
Right,
grade. Seventh and eighth grade, I think, is a good time to start having your athletic child be responsible for their decisions. And
right,
granted, their brain's still developing, they'll still need some help with those things, but at the same time, like, they're at an age where I think they know right from wrong, and they can make those decisions accordingly, and with the help of the parent, like I said, explaining, hey, I don't think this is a good
right.
decision. If you still want to do it, that's on you. There might be consequences, but we're going to do what you want to do. This is what I would do if I was you, and
Yeah,
then so forth. So that's kind
yeah.
of where I'm at.
And I think the recruiting rules now where you can't get recruited to your junior year anyways, granted, you gotta go to camps. I'm not saying you don't start doing anything until junior year, but I do think it gives girls more time, which I think is what we needed, is
Yeah.
girls, like, when they're in 8th grade, they can still be on the fence about, "What do I wanna play or not?" But I know back when we got when did you commit?
I
How
committed if I'm not mistaken, either my freshman or sophomore summer.
Okay,
I
yeah.
think it was my sophomore summer going into my junior year, but I also remember some kids in like seventh grade committing, and
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, obviously I was older at this point, but kids were committing. I was like, you don't even know what you want to do with your life, and you know
No.
what college you want to go to in seventh
Right.
grade. You're 12. You're like, it didn't make any sense to me. So I kind of
Yeah.
like that the rules changed a little bit in that aspect, because it does give kids a little bit more time and opportunity to think about what they really want to do and where they
Right.
really want to go and tour these schools. But
Yeah. But I do think it adds more, I don't know, I think it adds a little bit more stress. I was
I
just
agree.
talking to one of my friends the other day that's coaching in college, and we were talking about it, and we're like, I don't yes, it relieves some stress, like, on the front end, like, with being so young, but I almost feel like it does cause a lot more stress, like,
Yeah,
in a shorter amount of time. I think that we all stress from, like, 7th grade to
yeah.
sophomore year, but these girls almost, like, stress, like, first 3 or 4 months their
I think
junior
it's
year.
because I think these kids stress so much is because they just have like I don't know. I feel like I can't really speak on that part because I committed so early and I got offered so early.
Yeah,
But if I can think about it, I feel like girls stress because they have this one school or these two schools in mind that they want to go to, and they're not getting those offers at the time that they think they need to get them,
mhm.
and they're stressing about possibly not playing softball ever in college because of the fact that they're not getting these offers that they think they should
Yeah,
get. And granted, not saying they shouldn't, they don't deserve it, but
right.
sometimes we've got to be real with ourselves. Like,
Mhm.
is this realistic for me? Like,
Yeah,
are am I running from home to first at the same time as some of these committed players are? Am I hitting, as many home runs, or am I running the bases as well? Or am I making the decisions that these kids that are committed to these schools are making? Or could I reassess myself and maybe understand that I can grow in so many different areas and I can start at a smaller school? I can start at a JUCO or an NAIA and I can work my way up to that D1 position. I know so many girls that start small schools and they end up at D1 and they end
yeah,
up doing so much better than they would have had they
right,
started there. Sid
right.
Broderick, for example,
Yeah,
she started at BYU. She ended up coming to Florida State. We had a couple other JUCO players that transferred out of JUCO to FSU while I was there, and they did really well. So I think sometimes these girls, like I said, they're stressing because of the fact that they have a plan in mind, and it's
mhm,
not being followed to the way they
right,
want it to be followed.
right.
Um, but I'm a very like firm believer that everything happens for a reason and that God has his plan written out the way that he wants it to be written out, and it's going to work out just fine. And um yeah, I just think people just need to be patient and
Mhm.
trust the process, trust the plan that he has written for them, and everything will be good and work out.
Yeah, and I think social media, I know we've talked about it, like, it kinda adds a different dimension because if you are someone that you're looking at a certain school and they're your dream school, and then you keep seeing 3 or 4 girls getting offered by that school and you're not getting the offers. I know I was just talking, it was the other day, we had an interview with a coach, and we were talking about how it's honestly, like, so hard because I know when I was getting recruited, like, I didn't really know who was getting offered other than, like, people I personally knew. Like, I didn't know who all was going on visits and getting offered because we didn't really post about it. We'd post about visits some from time to time, but nowadays I think it's just so in your face all the time that like you can't even avoid it because like you
I
have to be on
agree.
social media to for recruiting. Like you have to. That's part of it now. But if I want to go to Florida State and I'm not getting the offers, but then I see Jessi Warren, who lives in another state. She says that she just committed to Florida State, or she's been on a visit there. And I'm like, crap, like there's another person that's going. It's that comparison game that I
Yeah,
think is so difficult.
I think
But
I
yeah,
think we have a lot of girls that compare. I remember when I was playing, I had just strucken out against this girl pitching against me. I had no idea who she was. And then I walked to the dugout and my coach was like, "Hey, you're playing with her in college, right?" I was like, "What? No, she's not."
yeah, right.
He was like, "Yeah, that's this girl. Her name was Karina Rosario." And I was like, "Oh, that's so cool. Like,
Yeah,
I just got struck out by my future teammate. Like,
yeah,
how cool is that?" But yeah, like you said, it was never really people weren't really posting. I remember I made a small tweet and I was like, so excited to commit to FSU, and that was literally it. But now
right.
you have these big paragraphs like, I want to thank this, I want to
Yeah,
thank, and it's like two paragraphs long. And granted, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's
yeah,
like you said, it's inevitable not see. Like I go on my
right.
Twitter page, I don't even follow these
You
girls,
don't
and
follow them.
I'm seeing like all these
Yeah.
people who are committed and stuff. So
Yeah, that's the
um,
thing is when you posted it, like, only your followers saw it. So
exactly, but
and
social media has changed
yeah,
tremendously that,
right.
like, I don't know. And that's another topic we're gonna cover in another episode
Yeah,
is social media, so,
right.
I'm
Yeah, well,
excited for that topic and
I
what
know.
with that.
Yeah, but yeah, it's crazy, and kinda going back to, knowing what you need and what you want, I think that can always get tied back to what we were talking about at the beginning of, your priorities and what you want out of an experience. So it's like, if you aren't willing, I didn't play Power 5, but I know from what I hear, like if you're not willing to make softball everything and making it your priority, like maybe you don't need to go Power 5 or Power 4 now, I guess. Maybe you need to go more, not, I don't want to call it lower level. I mean, I played at a mid-major. I mean, it's not a lower level, it's just a different level. And you just need to find like what you want and like I know I talked to a girl a few weeks ago that she's older, but she at the time when she was in high school, she was committed to a Division 1 school and things didn't work out. There was a coaching change and she just kind of went on campus and was like, oh, I don't think this is really where I want to go anymore. And she went NAIA, I think, or Division 2. I think she went Division 2 and then she went in NAIA. And she was like, that was like the best decision I ever made. Like I think she went to pharmacy school. So she was really into her academics. And she's like, a lot of schools will, they don't let you do certain degrees. They don't let you do certain careers because it does take a lot of time out of practice and softball. And she was like, that was the best thing I ever did because I didn't want to schedule my classes around practice time. I wanted to go to my classes that I needed to go to. I wasn't willing to graduate a semester behind because I'm in a more difficult major just because of softball. So I think it's just a matter of, like you said, being aware of what you need and what you want. And at the end of the day, I think what's so important is when you get done playing softball and you go into the workforce or you go and meet somebody somewhere and they're like, oh, you played college softball? And you're like, oh yeah, I played. And that's really the end of the conversation. It's not, oh, well, did you play Power 4? Did you start? Did you have a batting average? Like it never comes down to that. It's just you played college softball and it's an achievement in and of itself. So I think it's just, like you said, just finding what you need and what you want instead of kind of looking at like the biggest and the best and the brightest, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
100%.
It's like a different perspective.
Well, that cuts it for the Voices from the Field podcast for this topic. Do we have any PSAs? Do we have any announcements that we want to make, Katie?
We have the watch list for 10 and 12U is still open now. So if you have any 10U or 12U players that you want to nominate, it's a very short nomination. Just be able to recognize these girls that are young, that are just getting into the sport. Just recognize them for their hard work and their sacrifices, which kind of goes along with this episode for sure. So that's out. And yeah, just make sure you keep up on our website. We have Base Sports Performance doing some stuff with us, and it is Jacob Billingsley. He is a sports performance trainer. So he is giving us a lot of tips and tricks. I think he just came out with a mobility session. So it talks all about mobility and being flexible and kind of moving your body in the best way you can. So check that out on our website and just make sure you keep up with our forums. We have an I Committed forum. We have a player profile forum. We have a team spotlight forum. We have a bunch of different forums for you guys, your players, whether you're a parent, you're a coach, or you're a player listening to this, anybody that you want to recognize for their hard work. Please go to our website. It's under the media forums tab.
And as always, if you have any questions, you could email Katie or I. My email is jessi@extrainningsoftball.com. You could also reach out to us via Instagram or Twitter. Our Twitter is Extra Inning Softball. But it's SB, so Extra Inning SB. And then our Instagram is Extra Inning Softball, spelled out all the way through. And then Katie's email is katie@extrainningsoftball.com.
Nice.
And then I think that's all the information we have for you with PSAs. Make sure you guys tune in to our next episode, which will be out next week. We are super excited for all these topics and all these people that we have on schedule for us to come and talk on this podcast in the future. But thank you for tuning in. And until next time, Katie and I, we are out.
See ya.